All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the online question and answer session for between the 2018 candidates for the ABA Law Student Division Member at Large to the Board of Governors. Thank you for watching this. We have 4 great candidates for this position this year, and we are going to jump right into the question and answer session. This video should last about 45 minutes, and we're going to start with opening statements from each of the candidates. I have a series of questions that everyone will get a chance to answer, and then we'll allow the candidates to do some closing statements. So we have arranged a random order for the candidates to go in, and we're going to start with 2 minutes, opening statement.
Yeah, hi everyone. Something that I just really want to clearly communicate to the voting members and to everyone is my experience liaising, a pretty extensive experience liaising in my undergrad years, as well as law school years, working between 2 very large, powerful independent bodies in a voting capacity. I'm making sure that I'm juggling not only the needs of one body, but trying to get them more in concert with another. So one thing that I do have a lot of experience with is getting 2 very different independent bodies to kind of work together to clearly communicate each body's goals to the other and concerns, and getting them to work more in concert in a professional voting capacity.
Great, thank you. Matt Hayden.
Morning, everybody. Just a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in northern New Jersey, about 20 minutes away from New York City. I attended undergraduate in Temple University in Philadelphia. There, my undergraduate years, I had 2 positions that pretty much mirrored the responsibilities of what this role would be. One was I was the president of my fraternity. It was about a 100-member fraternity. It was an honor fraternity, about 50 chapters nationwide there. So I communicated with the school administration, the Office of the Fraternity Affairs, and with the National Board as well. I attended probably about 10 leadership conventions throughout my 2-year tenure as president. There we would make speeches and have little conferences and workshops just about how to fine-tune your leadership ability. I was also, as well as a political science major, I was economics minor with a focus with strategic communication and leadership. The second role that I had was I was one of the directors of our student government at Temple University. Temple is a very large school, 40,000 students, one of the most diverse schools in the country. Philadelphia is also a very diverse city. So we had a good chance there to see a lot of different voices. There were a lot of different hot button issues that cropped up during my tenure there. So it was very, very good experience, I guess you could say, to have a lot of different voices, a very eclectic group of people sharing what is important to them, kind of creating a cohesive conversation point that we could bring to the Board of Trustees. We had a monthly meeting where we would make reports and just kind of communicate the pulse of the students to the trustees, the administration, just so everyone could be on the same page and we could have the same goal moving forward. Right now I'm a 1L at Seton Hall University in Newark, New Jersey. This summer I'll be clerking for Federal Circuit Judge on the 3rd Circuit of New Jersey. I'm currently involved in 2 committees in the New York City Bar Association. One is on reentry, which I've had some experience beforehand, and one is on urban housing. I'm also part of the ABA Urban Housing Committee. And that's pretty much it. I'm in my moot court competition right now, so I'm kind of, as a 1L, balancing school and keeping my GPA high, and also starting to get involved in some leadership things that are very important to me. That's pretty much it. I live in Hoboken, New Jersey right now, which is right across the river from the city, and that's it.
All right, thank you. Panos.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing all right. My name is Panos Melisaris. I am from Texas, living now in Massachusetts. When I was in Texas, I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I studied economics and business. While there, I worked in a number of capacities, including as a representative for the Student Conduct Advisory Committee, where I was the liaison between the school and the students. And that was a very interesting dynamic, dealing with juggling and balancing disciplinary issues that the school wants to curb, and also not unnecessarily restricting student expression. Both very important things. So I'm really looking forward to working with you guys at the ABA. I'm more interested in hearing what your goals are and what it is that you would like from us. I mean, I'm sure you guys have an agenda and all that. So if you just want to please reach out. I mean, I'd love to hear about what I can do to try to put you in contact and with whoever you want and do all that. I'm a 1L right now at Boston College Law. I'm working with the ABA, putting together a few panels with local attorneys to try to network some of our students into the Boston legal community. So I do have that going on, but I am making myself available to all of you. If you want, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
All right, great. And last but not least, Matt Wallace, opening statement.
Thanks, Meredith. So good morning. My name is Matthew Wallace, and I am a 2L here at Syracuse University College of Law, where we are still currently digging out from the nor'easter last week. Before I continue, I just want to thank Meredith and the Law Student Division for not only holding this forum, but for their leadership this year. We do appreciate it. Before going into my platform, I want to briefly touch on my background. So I was born and raised just outside of San Francisco, California. I attended the University of Washington for my undergraduate studies. And while there, I served as a student senator for the Associated Students of the University of Washington, which really mirrors the responsibilities of this position, as Matt said. It does so because I represented all of the residence hall students that were on campus at the time, and that was about 8,000 individuals. I turned their ideas from residence hall councils into proposals, which were then presented to both the associated students as well as school leadership. At the end of my time at UW, I commissioned as an officer in the United States Army. I served in the Pentagon on a multinational force team doing law of war reviews of new weapons before switching to law school. In law school, I've been heavily involved in both the SBA and the ABA. I was a 1L class vice president helping to restart defunct organizations like Phi Alpha Delta and recruiting members to that organization, about 80 so far this year. I also have been active in the ABA through the Air and Space Forum. It's kind of my introduction. And since then, I've attended many meetings, update conferences, calls, and that's what inspired me to run. My platform boils down to 3 points: transparency, advocacy, and solidarity, the tenets of which I'm looking forward to discussing with this group today. But overall, I want to thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself and my platform. I'd be honored to earn your vote, and I look forward to a great forum today.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your opening statements. It occurred to me I should introduce myself as well. My name is Meredith Parnell. I'm currently in the position of the law student member at large to the Board of Governors. And so what we're going to do now is jump into a series of questions that I've largely crafted with some feedback from the council and assembly members based on my own experience about what it takes to be good in this job. So we're going to start with Matt Hayden. And the first question is this. So right now, the Board of Governors is very focused on how the ABA can better recruit and retain law students and young attorneys. And the board is really looking to the law student representative to speak up and contribute meaningfully to this process. So the question is, what ideas do you have about how the ABA can make membership more valuable and meaningful for law students and young lawyers?
Of course, I think the first thing would be to attract more young attorneys. Everything really is online these days, so I think if there was a more accessible database for young attorneys and law students to reach out to ABA members, specifically within their schools and within the areas of their schools, I think it would be much more attractive. Everyone always speaks about wanting to network and wanting to get to know people and break into their industries, respective industries. So I think that would be much easier to be able to access and approach ABA members. And I think the second portion of that, if there were hot button issues that concern them, that would draw them. I know at Seton Hall, we have a lot of programs that we bring in. Newark is an urban area. So we bring in urban students and high school students and college students in the area. We want to kind of give them a taste of what law school is. And I think that if ABA members were to be involved in that, they could get the law students very involved and very informed of what the ABA does and what the ABA can provide, especially with premium memberships early. Being a new premium member myself, I did not know how many resources you have in terms of test help, in terms of career resources, in terms of getting idea for industries that you want to break into. So I think that if those kind of things were communicated and established very early to law students, they would be much more interested in joining, especially in students. Meredith, were you going to say something?
Well, your minute's up, so if you could just wrap up that thought, that'd be great.
I forgot students. Oh yeah, so I think just if we can establish very early upon what the ABA can bring in terms of resources, and I think the biggest thing would be in different points that people want to go into, whether it be white-collar crime or whether it be securities fraud, giving the opportunity to show them that they can really help them break into that. So that was like a minute and a half. So if you want to deduct 30 seconds from my other one, it wouldn't be bad.
We'll just move on to Panos. Same question.
So, yeah, I mean, so the ABA is a membership-based organization, and I think that's a very big consideration. How do you get people to separate with the two most valuable things they have in life, their time and their money? And I think that's a balance that you can hit just by, as Matt was saying, you have to show them the value and show them how that value applies to them. So right now I'm working with the BBA doing something similar by bringing in local attorneys and giving students the opportunity to network now and show them how powerful that is so that they can go off and do it on their own. Because the ABA and the BBA, Boston Bar, you guys are here as a resource, not to hold hands and to do the work for the individual students. So getting students the opportunity to start networking, start researching and doing all that, get them started using the ABA, then I think that they'll see the value of carrying through.
Great, thank you. Matt Wallace.
Thanks for that question, Meredith. I think that one of the best ways that we could help to increase ABA membership among law students is probably to have the Board of Governors have a pretty sustained outreach themselves. I think having representatives go to different law schools, especially during orientation time, or at least people who are familiar with the ABA, and explaining to students at a time when they're best taking in information, which is orientation, how can the ABA help you? What benefits do we offer? What committees can you join? How will your ABA membership as a law student transition to your ABA membership as an attorney? How will the ABA be involved in your future life as an attorney? I think if we can kind of present that information right up front, instead of later in the year when law students are burdened with classes and organizations and everything else, I think that'll help us to best increase our chances of boosting law student membership. So that's what I'd go with.
Great. And same question.
Yeah, this is a really great question, and one that comes up in my time a lot as an ABA representative. I'm trying to get my fellow students to sign up for ABA memberships, and they ask me, well, why should I care about the ABA? Why should I join the ABA? And well, there's a lot of great answers to that question. One thing that law students really want to see is why they should have skin in the game. Why should they create this profile? Why should they get this membership? What can they get out of it? And so even going beyond just displaying the things that the ABA can do for students is showcasing perhaps students who have gotten things from the ABA, specific scholarships and networking opportunities, and maybe having a peak annual campaign, a membership campaign that occurs year-round, that showcases students who have gotten certain things out of the ABA, very concrete things that can show students why they should join the ABA. There's a lot of students don't realize what they can get out of the ABA, and so I think one thing is to communicate in a way that law students are communicating. So maybe having an increased presence on social media, having an increased presence on things like Instagram, where students normally are a lot of the time. If they see students that are showcased, I got this internship through my involvement with the ABA, and they see that while they're scrolling through Instagram, I think that we could utilize social media to be very powerful, especially like the hashtag #DUABA campaign that we did as a membership drive that I helped develop, that we did on Twitter. There was a lot of engagement with the hashtag. So if we utilize social media to showcase students who have gotten specific things out of the ABA, I think we could push up our numbers.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next question. The law student representative to the Board of Governors really has to be able to hold his or her own in a group of much more experienced attorneys, obviously. So you're sitting around the table with, 40 odd other board members, almost all of who have, decades more experience than you do. So the question is, can you share a story about an experience that you've had that demonstrates that you have the polish and maturity needed for this job? And for this question, we're going to start with Panos.
Well, that's always an important consideration, isn't it? Being comfortable in your own skin and in a room where you're going to have the spotlight on you. So there have been admittedly a number of situations that, maybe there were rooms that I shouldn't have been in. And, with, as you say, people that have much more experience and credentials and this and that. And I think it boils down to recognizing what it is that you bring to them. You're not really in that room or in this position to take, you're here to offer. So by recognizing what you have to offer and you framing the conversation in that way, people become a lot more receptive. And then they don't look at, I have X amount of years in private equity, or I'm a white collar criminal attorney, I'm the best in the state. They don't look at you that way because the conversation isn't framed that way. So I think that that's just a very important distinction to start out with and to start the conversation. And by doing so, you can really find people who maybe wouldn't be open to working with others, a lot more agreeable and willing to open up and work with you.
Great, thank you. Matt Wallace.
So for this question, I would go back to my time at the Pentagon. So after I commissioned, I went straight there, and I was the most junior person in that building. And we all know the Pentagon, you can't throw a coin without hitting a general of some sort. And as part of the international and operational law team, I was responsible for briefing commanders on complex international and ops law issues. So I was frequently in rooms with general officers and high-ranking military officials who had 25, 30, 35 years of experience, both in the military and in the law. And I had to provide information about what I had discovered and what the best course of action was. And I think that this directly will relate to my position as the law student at large on the ABA Board of Governors in a very similar capacity.
Great. On.
Yeah, so during my time in undergrad, I served as a student senate secretary and the IFC Interfraternity Council vice president internal, which meant that I dealt with all internal affairs of the Greek community. So I was the liaison between the administration of the school and the Greek community at large. And in both of those capacities, I had to attend conferences, leadership conferences. I had to attend meetings with trustees, meetings with the administration of the school, from lower level officials all the way up to the dean of the college. And during those meetings, I had to propose policies on behalf of my community, on behalf of the Greek community, or I had to speak on behalf of the entire student body and the executive body, the executive branch of the student senate. And in all of those capacities, they required a student that had to be politically savvy. And in this job, you would have to be politically savvy. You would have to be intelligent, articulate, confident without being cocky, and know your worth, but not press too hard. And I think that I definitely possess those qualities. And in those capacities that I was working in, I had to sit in a room and rub shoulders with trustees and with people who were very important. And I was just an undergraduate student. And these men had distinguished, I went to a men's school. These trustees who were men who had graduated from the college were very important, distinguished people in their fields, luminaries in their careers. And you have to go to the table. You have to know what you're doing inside and out. You have to know your policies, know your positions, and just kind of lay it on the table and know that you deserve that seat at the table and that you're not there by accident.
Great, thank you. And we'll close this question with Matt Hayden.
Yes, I think the biggest thing is to understand that you represent a brand. So that comes with image, it comes with the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you handle yourself. So I think in terms of attorneys, I worked at a big law firm for 2 years as a paralegal in Manhattan before. And the first time we went to trial and I presented all the discovery that to my clients and to the senior associates I was working with was probably the biggest moment, because everyone in there was very prestigious. The client was a very, very large client. And we were two of the partners, one from Boston and one from New York. So I think in that moment I had to kind of have the ability to make a cohesive conversation, a lot of clarity, speak very slowly, speak very clearly, and make sure I was getting the point across. So I think that's a situation where I was speaking in front of high-level attorneys. In college, actually, so I testified in front of the Pennsylvania Senate on behalf of Temple University for funding. Temple University is a public institution, so I had to go there and explain why Temple deserves the funding from the state. It was very nerve-wracking, but again, you go there with a calm, prestigious demeanor, very calm about it, speak slowly. So I think that was a very incredible moment because it was actually filmed, and looking back on it, I did everything I wanted to do, and I got a lot of credit for that and a lot of good wishes for that. So I think that's a moment that I did that.
Great. All right, third question. This job comes with the responsibility of being a voting member in the House of Delegates, which is ABA's policymaking body. And so the question is, other than just your studies as a law student, can you tell us about some experience that you have with policy issues, be it passing, evaluating, or drafting policy? This question will start with Matt Wallace.
So I've worked with policy in two capacities. First and foremost, when I was a member of the ASU Deb Senate, I had to craft policy proposals and present them to the larger associated students and the university. So that was part of my policy basis, and it's what inspired me to also want to get a master's of public administration. So here at Syracuse, I'm actually a joint student. I'm a JD MPA, so I'm pursuing my master's in public administration as well, in national security policy studies. So I look at kind of what is the best policy for us as a nation with regard to our national security and counterterrorism efforts. And so I've helped to develop policies that have been printed in our Journal on Terrorism and Security Analysis, and policies that are presented to the Department of Defense for implementation across the military. So I've worked significantly with policy. And as one last mention, when I was in the Pentagon, I actually helped to develop the transgender policy that went out and then was rescinded and then was reinstated. That is now in effect in the military. So I know what it means to draft policy and to put it into effect.
All right, on.
I just realized I never muted myself. I'll be sure to make sure I do that next time. So one thing that I definitely have a lot of experience with was during my years as the IFC Interfraternity Council Vice President. One thing that the Vice President Internal had tried to do before me was to get us nationally certified by the National Interfraternity Council. It's a large body. It's a large conference, and the reason why it was never implemented in the past was because the policy was never clearly articulated on why we should pay this large fee to join this body. And so one thing that I had to do was sit in front of the dean and sit in front of the associate dean of students and say, these are the policy reasons, the specific policy reasons why it is good for this large group of men who have entrusted me to sit before you today to join this conference. This is why the fee is worth it. These are the things that we get out of it. So I definitely have a little bit of experience in articulating. I think that's the main problem that I think can arise in positions like this is you might have good reasons, but if they're not put forth in a coherent manner, then it doesn't matter what your cause is, it's going to fall apart. So I had to, clearly and intelligently articulate why this was good for the Greek community at large. And during my capacity in Student Senate, we needed to redraft the Constitution. And again, you have this document, it's very old, and students from seniors all the way to freshmen don't understand why it needs to be changed. So you have to let them know why it's good for them for it to be changed. So just definitely letting your body, your constituent bodies, know the value in what you're doing is very important.
Great. Matt Hayden.
So as a political science major, I think my whole undergraduate career was based around policy. I worked for a lobbying firm, Greenlee Partners, where I would go to city council and Senate meetings. I would take notes and do briefs on all the legislation they would put forward. Also, as a director of government affairs, I was head of all the policy for Temple University. So I worked with the administration to craft policy and put forward policy and lobby for policy within the city and both the state. And I worked for the SEIU, and I worked for the Tom Wolf campaign in connection with them. He's a Democratic governor from Pennsylvania, and we worked to just get some policy that would be beneficial to the SEIU. But I think the biggest thing was during undergraduate, I worked for a reentry program that is a state-sponsored reentry program, and I helped write the policy with the former governor of New Jersey that was passed within Jersey City and passed statewide. It was a tax abatement program that gave the city and also certain cities in New Jersey tax abatements for hiring workers who had just recently left prison that had non-violent offenders. This is something that I've worked pretty extensively through my career. So I think it was really, really exciting for me and really rewarding for me to see that policy actually that I had a hand in writing be passed and be implemented.
Great. And lastly, Panos.
Policy is very important in our system. It's what affects everything we do. And I think that all of our candidates have kind of illustrated that. We're the type of leaders that when we are in a position, we recognize the power of policy and we do what we can to affect policy that will achieve the goals that we'd like to see and shape the organizations how we like to see. So I had worked in high school with the school board in affecting some policies in order to make my school a little safer and make it a better place for science and math education. Turn it into a magnet school and do some great things. Did the same thing in college, and I'm working on the same thing in law school. I mean, as we say, policy is very, very, when you have a goal in mind, policy is the best way to effectuate the goal. And even if it takes a few tweaks, it's always a great place to start because it gets everyone on the same page. It gets people talking. It gets the conversation rolling in a productive manner, and it gives people something to work toward. And I think that, you know, regardless of, sometimes there are unintended consequences, sometimes policies need tweaks, but I think it's always satisfying when you're on a team and you can finally be able to say, okay, this is our final product. This is what we're going to be implementing. This is our attempt to make things better. And I think it brings people together in a major way. So it all depends on what the goals are of the board of the regents, the board of governors. So whatever you guys want, we'll put something together. We'll make it nice. We'll get everybody on board, and hopefully we'll get it right the first time.
Great, thank you. Okay, next question. As you guys all know, this position comes not only with a significant leadership role on the board of governors, but also within the law student division itself. So the question is, what do you think are the most serious issues facing law students that you would like to tackle within the ABA law student division? And this question goes to An to start.
Yeah, I think one thing that is affecting law students very greatly right now, especially within the law student division, I think that the back and forth that's going on with Dreamers, I think that a lot of law students who have very unclear status, citizenship status in the country, I think that needs to I think that it's a very important issue, but I think it's something that the ABA Law Student Division could issue a statement on. It might not necessarily be binding, but I think that it's something that the Law Student Division itself should come together and definitely think about and brainstorm about. There's a lot of citizenship status up in the air right now. There's a lot of unsurety, and I think that there's a lot of law students in the country who are unsure of their status and unsure if they'll be able to stay in the country. And I think that some kind of statement from the Law Student Division would present a unified front and show that the students are being thought of and that their status might be uncertain, but that the Law Student Division is thinking of them and is aware of their status and is trying to put something together to see what can be done for the situation. So,
all right. Matt, Hayden.
So I think there's two issues. I think one, for current law students, I think mental health is a very big issue. There's a stigma kind of around going to see someone or seeking help for help if you're really struggling and you find yourself in a bad place and maybe your grades aren't going the right way. I think there's a stigma with going to see a counselor or something to that nature. So I kind of want to get rid of that stigma. I want to make sure everyone knows that it's okay to see someone. Law school, obviously, as we all know, it's a very tough process. It can get you down, a lot of ups and downs. But I think to take that stigma away, maybe almost even require a conversation maybe every month, every 2 months, just to make sure you're doing okay in your mental health wise, make sure everything is okay, you're not getting overwhelmed. I think I'll touch on the second portion. I think we want to make sure that law students are going to law school for the correct reasons. I know there is an uptick right now in applications, and I want to make sure that law schools are being very transparent about what they're getting into. I know we probably all get the same emails getting blasted from law schools that are probably promising this, that, and the third, all these things that are actually not true. The ABA has been cracking down on that, which I really appreciate, and that's something I really would like to get behind in this position. So I think that transparency and getting law students to law school for the right reasons and make sure they understand the consequences and the investment, both time and financially, that they're getting into before they enroll.
Okay. Panos?
So those are some very timely and topical issues that were brought up, which is awesome. And I mean, there's a number of issues that need to be addressed that we face every day in law school. I mean, I speak for myself when I say right now it's March. What I'm worried about is finding a good internship and leading that into a good job. So I've focused now on breaking into the Boston legal community and speaking with as many attorneys that I can and building a network ahead of time, not necessarily to find a job later on, but just to get a feel for who's out there, what's the lay of the land, and how are things being done. So I think that that's something that a lot of law students maybe don't really consider, that maybe they should. Maybe if there was a way to get them out there and get them steeped in the culture before it's time to start looking for a job and start asking those hard questions when you're asking others to vouch for you and to step up at their firms or wherever it is you want to practice. First understanding how the game's played before you try to play it. So I think that, that's a little more of a practical application, but I think that they're all important. They all have a place.
Great. Matt Wallace?
So I want to echo what Matt and An said. I think that those are very topical issues. And I think with regard to what An said, I think it's great that the ABA passed that resolution last August stating its support for undocumented students being able to take the bar. And I think that we can kind of continue that in the law student division next year, continue that advocacy. The thing I would be most focused on is public service loan forgiveness. I think we saw with the Prosper Act that came out recently that public service loan forgiveness is in danger in this country. And I think we all know that pursuing a legal education is expensive, and the PSLF program is one of the best ways to get that debt wiped out over time. And it benefits all of us because it helps to put lawyers in public service. So I think we learned the most recent tax debate that nothing is ever off the table, and PSLF is currently on the table to be discussed. And I would make it a priority to ensure that public service loan forgiveness is protected for all law students.
Great. Next question. There are a lot of great leadership opportunities within the law student division. So why are you interested in this position in particular as opposed to chair or education director or any of the other great positions that we have? Matt Hayden.
So I think I chose this one after reading the descriptions of the ones that were available. This one really jumped out at me. I had positions in the past that closely resemble and closely mirror this. I really enjoy being the face of an organization. I really enjoy speaking on behalf of people. I enjoy kind of the limelight, meeting with people. I'm very outgoing, very personal person. So I saw this and I saw the requirements, and I would really enjoy to be able to be that voice for the students of the country, all around the country. I've spoken for 40,000 students at Temple University, a very, very diverse student body. That's something I really excelled in and I really enjoy doing. So I think when I saw what the responsibilities of this would be and being able to go around the country and talk to different students, and kind of being that voice and being that beacon of hope for all the students around the country, it was really a no-brainer for me. And I think that what I can bring to the table and what I can provide in terms of my skills, my personality, and my experience very closely resemble what it takes to excel in this role.
Panos.
These these kinds of positions are always a great opportunity because you have students who have the energy, they have all this great stuff, and sometimes it's not focused and therefore not as effective as it could be. And then on the other hand, you have the Board of Governors, who are all experienced attorneys but they need something from the students, and that's mainly membership and participation, because that's what our organization is based on. So, these kinds of organizations and these kinds of positions are an interesting dynamic where you really have to work cooperatively between two sects of people that have similar goals, but they're not exactly the same. And that poses some interesting dynamics, and I dealt with it at the University of Texas, dealing with student services, student judicial services, and the student body. And it's very rewarding when everybody comes together and you're able to get that dialogue going and you're able to effectuate change. It's just not the easiest thing in the world. So I look forward to that challenge. And I think that it's a great opportunity, once again, to get two sides that wouldn't really come together normally otherwise to really sit down and be able to benefit from it.
Matt Wallace.
So with regard to why I applied for this position, I really have two passions. One is advocacy and the other is being of service to others. So with regard to advocacy, I'm very active with our trial teams and our moot court competitions and everything that goes on here at Syracuse Law. But I've always had a lifelong commitment to service. I mean, I'm an Eagle Scout. I was active in service organizations in high school. I served the students of the University of Washington as their senator. When I was an undergrad, I joined the Army in service to the nation. I've always sort of believed in giving back and sort of advocating for those who might not always be able to advocate for themselves, or to sort of amplify the voice of the people. And I think that in this position as law student at large on the ABA Board of Governors, it really is a culmination of the two passions that I have with regard to advocacy and service, and allows me to spend the next year advocating on behalf of all law students across the country and serving them so that their legal careers and their law school experiences are even better than they were before.
On.
Yeah, I'd say that applying for this job didn't really require much thought, honestly. I have an almost preternatural sense to listen to people and not only hear what they're saying, but to kind of read what they're saying and understand their underlying interests. And I think that this job just plays naturally to my ability to create change and to build alliances between two different bodies. And I have a really great ability to communicate what one group wants, especially if it's not communicated in a very nice manner, if it's very maybe demanding, or if it's if the interest that they're seeking is very averse to the other party. I have a really great ability to take what they want and to not twist their words, but to kind of blend their words in a way that would be more amenable for the other side to hear. And I think that since my style of leadership is servant leadership, I really want to put myself into the service of law students across the country and be their agent and be able to create change for law students all across the country by, stepping into this position and allowing, taking on the votes and being the voice of reason.
Great. Those are all the questions I have. So what we're going to do now is just move on to closing statements. So each candidate will have 90 seconds to tell us one last time why you think you're the best candidate for the job and emphasize anything else that you want to make sure that the voters understand. So let's start with Panos.
Well, thanks again for hosting this event. It was really great to be able to come here, see the other candidates, hear what everybody had to say, and just a chance to be a part of the ABA in a more active role. I really look forward to the opportunity to working with you. I hope that whatever it is that you need, we can work together to make sure that you get it. And the things that I think make me best suited for that role is mainly my ability to listen and my willingness to listen. I don't really mess around a lot with ego or with any of that. I'm willing to take a hit and fall on my sword if I need to, if that's what's needed in order for us to get those open lines of communication, get people feeling comfortable, and start moving toward a productive way. And I think that I've done that before. I'm more than happy to speak with anybody about their goals and their vision for this upcoming year. If I don't reach out to you, I hope you'll reach out to me. And just to continue the conversation, I look forward to hearing from everyone. I wish everyone the best of luck either way, and I hope that I have your vote and I can count on your support. So with that, Matt brought up the Northeaster that happened here. I had a tree fall on my car, and I have the insurance adjuster outside. So thank you very much for your time. I do need to get off, but I wish everybody the best of luck, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Matt Wallace.
So again, thank you, Meredith and the Law Student Division for hosting this forum here today. I truly believe that we are at a crossroads, and that sounds cliche, but I know someone mentioned today that we are seeing an uptick in the students who are applying to law school, and I think the right leadership now will set the precedent for years to come. I have a platform that follows the ideas of transparency, advocacy, and solidarity. And while we didn't get a chance to review all of the elements in my proposal today, I hope that you'll take this time to review my statement, my video statement, my resume, and see that I have the experience and the qualifications to do well and be your advocate in this position. My goals are simple: to continue the work of protecting undocumented students in the law community, to protect public service loan forgiveness, to support diversity in our law schools, and the continued recognition of the Me Too movement, and that it isn't absent from our law schools or our profession. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself and my platform to you here today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me using the information that's located on my materials. And it would be an honor to earn your support and to ultimately earn your vote. I look forward to working with, or hopefully working with, many of you next year. So thank you very much.
On.
Yeah, again, I just want to thank you, Meredith, for doing this, and to the ABA for hosting this. This is a wonderful opportunity to kind of showcase who we are and why we went out for the job, so I appreciate this. I say a lot, and I'll continue to say it because it's something that I believe in really, really deeply, is my style of leadership, which is servant leadership. It's not me being at the front of the room, being self-important and giving these grand speeches and talking about all the policy that I want to put into place. It's really about letting the law students know that they have someone that they can believe in, that they have someone that they can trust, and they have someone who will leave their biases and presuppositions at the door and really go into these rooms and actually do something for them. It's not just something that I want to put on my resume. It's not just a job that I need to fill my time. It's something that I believe in, because I think that law students really need a champion. And I think that I would bring a tirelessness to the job that kind of sets me apart. And I think that we need more students in law student division leadership positions of diverse backgrounds, because I think that it's important for law students at large to see themselves represented within these, bodies with voting power. So I think that my diverse background would lend kind of an edge, another facet to my ability to effectuate change and my ability to bring these diverse opinions and backgrounds to the table and create policy and vote in a way that would reflect my desire to make the law student division work for everyone.
Great. And last, Matt Hayden.
Just want to echo what everyone else said, but thank you so much, Meredith, for having us today. It was nice also meeting you guys as well. So I think, as I touched upon before, the qualifications and experience I've had in my past have really set me up to have success in this role. I think they've closely mirrored, and I've excelled in those positions. So I think I would bring in a depth of experience. And basically what they would get is an effective communicator. I've had a lot of training on effective communication. I'm an excellent listener. And also, as a 1L, this would be a position that I would be taking. And if I do get the job, then I would not take another leadership positions. So I would have all my time to work on this. And an incredibly hard worker, a tireless worker. So I would have all my time to, if I wasn't working directly with this, to be reaching out to students, to listening to students, to prepare for this situation and to prepare for this job. I've already reached out to students in my area and across the country, really, to get a voice of the pulse of the students to see what's most important for everyone. And I think I kind of want to work on an inside-out platform to work with the students inside the law school to make sure all the law students are healthy, they're doing well, and they're putting themselves in the best position for success, and moving outward from there to work on and tackle a lot more micro than to macro issues. Matt spoke about before, the Dreamers is a very big thing right now. I also want to continue the increased stringency on law schools to make sure that their disclosures to students are clear and they're truthful. I know that there are already some violations of the Chapter 3 and Chapter 5 of the code that the ABA has put on a certain number of schools. And I think those schools are also very active, and they also reach out to a lot of students in a way to almost take advantage of them. So I want to make sure that students are coming in for the right reasons. They're not getting sharked or conned, or for lack of a better term, whatever you want to call it. But they're going to get a hard worker. They're going to get a tireless worker, hard worker, someone who's been in this position before and excelled, and someone who really loves to be kind of the brand and image for law students across the country. So thank you for that. Great meeting you guys as well.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I, again, am so excited to have 4 wonderful candidates for this position. I want to encourage everyone to vote. Voting is done electronically. You'll receive an email with your electronic ballot as we get closer to the voting period, and that period is March 13th through 15th. Also, just want to remind everyone that you can learn more about the candidates by reviewing their statement, their resume, and their video statement on the ABA Law Student Division webpage. So thank you one last time to the candidates for joining me today, and remember to vote.
Thanks, Meredith.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Meredith. Have a good day.